developing meditation is, to a large degree, a skill like any other skill. You have to learn by practice how to do it. You can read many books or listen to many teachers and get some pointers, but in the end you have to find your own way. One of the important principles that has a lot of application and applies in different contexts is the idea of balance. One of the phrases used for the Buddha's teaching is the middle path. And that's used in a number of different contexts. It's used quite often. The first time it comes up is in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, the first discourse of the Buddha. This is very first teaching to the 5 monks, is that his teaching is the middle path between the extremes of asceticism and sensual indulgence. In other words, seeking neither pleasure nor pain, but being content with reality as it is. Further along into the teachings, there are a number of specific teachings around the practice of meditation that involve balance. And in particular, there are 2 lists, the 5 faculties and the 7 enlightenment factors, that are explicitly described as requiring a balance of factors. The 5 faculties are mindfulness, faith, wisdom, energy, and samadhi. And they break down into sets, with mindfulness or sati in the middle, and the 2 pairs that we might call the inner pair and the outer pair. Sati is in the middle because it's required to be able to know what's going on in the mind so you can work the other factors. If you don't know, if you're not mindful, if you're muddled, you don't see your own process of mind, then you can't go much further. So sati is not paired, it's at least in this context, it's in the middle and is beneficial at all times. The Suddhimagga says it's like salt that improves every dish. I think that may be a culinary, doubtful from a culinary point of view, but I don't think Buddhaghosa was known to be a chef. So, but his point is mindfulness is required at all times. There's no such thing as too much mindfulness or development of mindfulness causing problems. We perhaps should say a little bit about sati. The word mindfulness is the standard translation, and I know some of our monks now and some other teachers are getting away from using the word mindfulness because, for one thing, it's been so co-opted into the general culture to not have not much of its intrinsic meaning. It's kind of trendy, mindfulness of this and that. Sati has actually a close relationship to memory, which seems counterintuitive at first because it's also about being in the present moment. It's being aware of the present contents of consciousness. Some of the old books translated it as recollectedness, which I think is quite good. The idea is remembering to be present. So you have a continuity of consciousness. So sati is being awake, clearly mindful of the process of the mind, and it's always in practice. It's always in the present moment. But when one is always in the present moment, then you build up a continuity of present moments, and this is a full mindfulness. Then the pair of virya and samadhi, which is energy and stability of mind. And this is, I call this the inner pair because it's very immediately related to the state of mind when we're developing meditation. If a person is going off, their meditation is not going well, it's always in one of two directions. It's either too restless, unrestrained mind jumping all over the place, a jumpy, twitchy sort of feeling, or it's in the direction of dullness, sleepiness, tiredness, not being fully awake and alert and aware. And these symptoms are a result of an imbalance of the factors, these two factors of virya and samadhi. Virya is effort or energy, and if that is overdeveloped and not balanced with samadhi, then it leads to restlessness. One is unable to sit still. One's unable to keep the mind still, and the meditation falls apart. On the other hand, if there's samadhi without being supported by energy, then it becomes kind of a self-hypnosis, kind of drifting into dullness. And this is what the state of mind that the Thai tradition calls bhavanga, which is a word from the Abhidhamma, but it has a slightly different meaning in the context of the Thai forest teachings. Bhavanga is a state of mind that it's not being asleep exactly, but it's being very dull in meditation, and the mind has no brightness, no energy behind it. So these two factors have to be developed in tandem, in balance, and it's kind of like if you're changing a tire on your car, you have to tighten up the lug nuts a little at a time, this one, then that one, then the other one. If you tighten one all the way down, it'll just bend the hub, and it'll be, create problems for yourself. You have to draw it in together. So it's not such a thing as you can have too much samadhi, but you can have too much samadhi if it's not balanced with energy. You have to bring them up together. And you use the mindfulness is the factor that helps you to take stock, to see what's going on in your mind, in your practice, and then being able to make the necessary corrections. And the simple rule of thumb is if you're dull, you need more energy, and if you're restless, you need more samadhi. So if you're feeling dull, if there's sleepiness, if there's lack of energy, a sense of boredom, or a lack of interest or energy behind the meditation, then you need to bring up the energy factor. So it's a mistake at that time to try and become more concentrated, to bear down on the breath. That'll just make you more dull. Until you get the factors balanced, don't be so concerned about the samadhi. Bring the energy up. And the simple things you can do, like opening the eyes while you meditate, that does reduce the ability to have good samadhi, but you're not concerned about that at the moment. You're trying to bring in energy. When you get the factors balanced, then you can proceed to deepen the samadhi. You can do more walking meditation. You can walk more briskly. Even if the dullness is extreme, then don't even try to stay restrained in meditative postures. Maybe go for a walk or do some exercise, or just try and energize the system. And when you get the energy level up, then you can deepen the samadhi. On the other hand, if you feel restless, agitated, and in the body you can feel it in terms of a difficulty sitting still, the urge to constantly be changing posture, fidgeting, and then kind of twitchiness in the muscles. In the mind, it's experienced as the mind jumping around from object to object, thinking schemes and plans, or running old memories like old movies. The mind is unsettled. It's restlessness. This is an excess of energy and not enough samadhi. So the opposite advice applies here. It's very important when restlessness arises to make an extra effort to sit still, to remain still, and if you have the option to try and sit longer, do less walking meditation, and when you walk, do it very slowly. And in general, increase restraint, sense restraint, and just draw everything in and try and deepen the samadhi. It's a mistake to ever give in to restlessness. This is something that meditators fall prey to on retreats. Is if they're struck with restlessness, the mind comes up with 101 things you should be doing right now. Clean the kuti, or go for a walk, or and you tell yourself, well, if I just I'll go for a long walk, then I'll be able to get back to my meditation. And, that's the wrong thing to do. You just increase the restlessness. You never give in restlessness by attempting to appease it. You have to subdue it, and it can be difficult because the mind is crying out to be active, and you're saying, no, sit still. Right? One of Ajahn Chah's phrases that is known is going against the grain. And this applies here because a good rule of thumb, if you're not sure what to do, is to do the opposite of what the desire mind is telling you to do. Now, if you're dull, your desire is, I'll just take it easy. I'll just sit here and wrap a blanket around myself and slump over and have a nice doze, and feel sort of pleasant. And if you're restless, the desire mind is, like I said, is coming up with all sorts of schemes and things you need to be doing right now. So you don't listen to those voices. Just try and judge with wisdom what's required. Yeah. So it's energy and samadhi. is a very important balancing factor. It's like riding a bicycle. That you have to learn balance to ride a bicycle, and this is the same thing. You have to learn this equipoise, this balance of the factors. The other pair I call the outer pair because it's not so much immediately involved in the meditation, but it sets a general tone for the practice. And these are the factors of saddha, which is faith or confidence, and panya, which is wisdom. And in this context particularly means discriminating wisdom, which is the wisdom to know the particularities of things. And for a healthy spiritual life, one has to balance these two factors. Faith or confidence without wisdom is like a superstition. And the wisdom without faith is cunning, which is said to be like a disease caused by medicine, very hard to cure. So both of these factors are important, but they must inform each other and balance each other. And this is a healthy attitude. Think about the extremes. Think about someone who has lots of faith but no discriminating wisdom. They believe any kind of nonsense that comes along and throw themselves into it wholeheartedly. I think, in my lifetime, the classic extreme example of this is, and it was around in the late 1990s, there was a comet, Hale-Bopp comet, and there was a religious movement that sprung up that said it was a spaceship, and Jesus was driving the spaceship, and if you kill yourself when the closest approach of the comet, then you'll get taken up on the spaceship and ride away with Jesus. And there was dozens of people that killed themselves. And you can't fault those people for lack of faith, because they certainly believed enough even to sacrifice their life, but they had no discriminating wisdom. It's kind of a story that most people would just hear that and think is totally nonsensical. They believed it enough to kill themselves. So that's faith without wisdom. Can get you into all kinds of trouble. Wisdom, or in particularly this discriminating wisdom without faith, leads to this kind of cynical skepticism. That we've all met people like that are just negative about everything. They can't accept anything as being good or wholesome or productive of good results. They have to tear everything down. They think that's being smart and clever. And this kind of cynicism, it leads to a very dry heart and very bitter life and a lot of unhappiness. And it doesn't lead anywhere good. So the faith and wisdom have to be balanced. You have to use your discriminating wisdom to judge, teachings and practices, and see, is this wholesome? Does this lead in a positive direction? And if it does, then you have faith in it. You can devote yourself to it. So the only really sound and solid faith is that based on experience. But faith has the characteristic or quality of leading ahead of experience somewhat. Somebody's compared it to, which I think is a good analogy, is the headlights of a car, illuminating the road ahead. It's also been compared to like a road map, and how wisdom and faith work together. Consider if you're going on a journey, you're driving someplace you've never been before, and you buy a map. Now you probably start out having reasonable faith in the map. The map maker is reputable or whatever. But if you drive along and you start to recognize on the map towns and crossings that are marked and you see them in the real life, that increases your confidence in the map. And after a while you have strong confidence that the map is accurate, even stretches you haven't driven on. So you have to have some degree of faith even to start the practice, even to start any kind of practice. But then as you see that some results, that strengthens your faith and you begin to have confidence that that which you have not yet experienced is possible. But you always keep your wisdom faculty active as well, and have some discrimination in what teachings you take in and absorb. You think critically in a wise way, not in a negative way. The Buddha said his teachings were ehipassiko. That's when we chant the qualities of the Dhamma, one of the words is ehipassiko. And that means, literal translation is come and see. Meaning it's verifiable. Check it out. Check it out would be a good colloquial translation of ehipassiko. Here it is, check it out, see for yourself. So these 5 faculties are also, they're called spiritual powers, bala, or faculties, indriya. They're essential for spiritual progress. They're very critical that they're developed in balance. The other set that has some similarity, some overlap to this one, is the 7 enlightenment factors, the 7 bojjhanga, which bojjhanga literally means wings of awakening. And Thanissharo's done a book with that title. But this is the literal meaning of bojjhanga. And you think like a bird needs a left wing and a right wing to fly. If one wing is crippled or missing, it won't be able to take off. So these are the 2 wings of allowing the mind to take off. Anga means limb or wing. And boj is from the root like a bodhi, Buddha. Wakeful, being awake. So this one is 7 factors, and they also have sati as the central linchpin. It plays the same role here. And the 2 sets of 3, which are called calming and energizing factors. The Buddha, in the discourse where the Buddha gives this teaching the first time, he gives a metaphor. It's like you've built a fire, and you're trying to keep the fire at a nice, steady, even heat. If it's starting to blaze up out of control, what do you throw on the fire? Do you throw on dry grass and dry twigs and bark? No. That would just make it blaze up more. Instead, you want to damp it down, so you throw on green grass and green twigs and so on. And if the fire's dying out, you don't keep throwing green twigs on it and grass. You throw on dry straw and dry twigs. Give it a fuel to burn brighter. So you have to judge the mind which factors you need to bring in to either calm the mind or energize it. On the calming side, we have samadhi, upekkha, and passaddhi. Samadhi we've talked a lot about. It's the stabilizing of the mind. Upekkha is equanimity, which is a very important spiritual faculty, and it comes up in a lot of lists and a lot of different contexts. And it's really a jewel of a mind state. And it has slightly different meanings in different contexts, but what's common is the idea of equipoise. It's usually translated as equanimity. Not being disturbed not being agitated, not being upset or afraid or excited, but just being steady in the middle. You know? Taking everything just as it is. Passaddhi is tranquility. There's a peacefulness of mind. The mind is calm, peaceful, not upset or agitated or disturbed, but placid, calm, clear. You know? So these three factors are calming factors. You know? And similar to the rules about the five faculties, if these factors are strong and the energizing factors are weak, well, that's like throwing tons of wet grass onto a dying fire. The mind will just get duller and duller. You know? Because these are calming, pacifying factors, but there's nothing in them to energize or brighten the mind. The other side, the three factors, are virya again, piti, and Dhamma. Virya we spoke about in the faculties. It's the energy, effort or energy, the energizing quality. Piti is one of the jhana factors. It's an energy in the body-mind system that has been translated as rapture or joy. And all of these translations are not really completely accurate. This is a general rule when studying Dhamma teachings, is not to be overly reliant on the English word. They're often not quite right. But piti is an uplifting energy in the body-mind, you know, and it's felt it has a strong correlate. It's actually a mental quality, but it has a correlate in the body. You feel it in the body as energetic rushes, like tingling or spine, effects in the spine, or a sense of lightness and floating. All these are variations of piti. There's long lists of signs of piti that occur in the body, but in the mind it's experienced as a bright joyfulness. Like, this feels good. You feel bright, clear, and happy. So it's energetic. It's energizing. It matures in the terms of the jhana path. This is a little bit of a digression, but in the jhana path, it matures into the quality of sukha, which is, in the context of jhana, it means a blissful, peaceful, blissful state. So it's not energetic and exciting like piti, but it's better. It's considered deeper, better kind of a happiness. It's an oceanic, calm, clear, expansive kind of happiness without any particular associated feeling in the body, except that the body feels completely at ease and well-being, but no sort of active sensations in the body. But in the terms of the enlightenment factors, we're just talking about piti, and we talked about virya already. The last is Dhamma, which is investigation of dhammas. And this is related to wisdom. It's the mind examining the nature of dhammas which arise. So you can consider it to be sort of an intelligent curiosity. That the mind is poised with this attitude of the question mark. Like, what is this thing? What's this? How does this work? What's going on now? This is Dhamma. And the mind is taking an active interest in what's going on. So you can see these three factors together, they're energetic. There's energy, investigation of dhammas, and rapture. And taken together, they're energetic. And if they're not balanced with the calming factors, if they're overdeveloped without the calming factors, it'll just lead to restlessness and agitation. And the meditation will fall apart. So the enlightenment requires both aspects to be developed in tandem, with calm brightened by energy. There's a lot of significance in this, developing these various factors in balance, because we're attempting to bring these factors together. I think this is one aspect of the symbolism you find in Tibetan Buddhism, very common, of the bell and the dorje. This is a similar, underlying the deep significance of that is, the bell is the womb of becoming, is the essence of the essence of the potentiality of wisdom, the full emptiness. But by itself, it has no sharpness or clarity or brightness. It needs that flash of the lightning bolt of the dorje to illuminate it. But the dorje by itself, without having a field of potential to manifest in, is useless. So like bringing all these mental factors together, this is also you could say, another parallel system of symbolism is Taoist idea of the yin and the yang. Right? The yin is the calming, pacifying side, and the yang is the energizing, brightening side. And harmony is found when these are in balance and they're working together. One by itself is problematic, but the two come together in harmony in the mind, then the mind can progress and can experience deeper states of consciousness. So I'll stop there.